Okay, so there are lots of decent 2x2s on the market, as you can see here. So we're going to start right at the high end of 2x2s, which is essentially the WeiPo V5 and the GAN 251 series. So the WeiPo V5 was the cube used by YiHeng Wang in his 0.88 world record average. I don't think it was in the sliding records because they were removed before he switched to MoYu. But the thing is with this is, sure, YiHeng Wang uses the WeiPo V5 and it's a decent cube. It comes in at 50mm and 32 pounds and it feels very nice and smooth. But literally everyone else in the top 10 uses the GAN 251, despite it being older. So the GAN 251, which is used by 9 of the top 10 in 2x2, is probably the best option for most people. And most use the GAN 251M Pro, which is £27, so actually cheaper than the WeiPo V5. But in the name, it is 51mm, as it says, GAN 251, so it's 51mm, so 1mm bigger. Now there are 3 options available. Well, technically 4, maybe even 5 if you count it, but 3 options right here. So we have the GAN 251 Air, and the difference is you look inside, what do you see? You see no core magnet. So it's got corner edge magnets, just like pretty much any modern cube does, but no corner to core magnets. Now, if you look inside the Pro, you can see it's got a magnet inside there, and it's got a magnet there. So it's got corner to core magnets, and you can also adjust the strength. Now, if you go into the Leap, this has even stronger corner to core magnets, and of course you can also adjust the strength. So that's the difference there, and there is also a Leap UV coated version, which is just a UV coated version of the GAN 251M Leap. There's no UV coated version of the Pro or the Air out of the box, so if you desperately want that, you're going to have to buy both and do some modifications. So the GAN 251M Pro, however, is the one used by most of the top cubers, and I think this is because the GAN 251M Leap just has magnets that are simply too strong for most people, especially when you're trying to turn really fast. So for most people who are want the best 2x2 on the market, I do think the best option for most people is still the GAN 251M Pro. However, if you are like YiHeng Wang and you like really fast MoYu style cubes with UV coatings that are slightly smaller, then the WeiPo V5 is another option to consider. And obviously these all have pretty much perfect corner cutting, which the same cannot be said about some of the other more budget options on the market, although should you need perfect corner cutting on a 2x2. Now, if you don't want to spend over £20 on a 2x2, there are, of course, some mid-range options to consider that are pretty much just as good and will get you very good times if you practice with them. So we do have, for £16, the Dian Tengyun V1. Now, this is probably the quietest 2x2 on the market and has quite a unique hollow feeling to it. So there are definitely some people who are just going to really like this sort of feel, but I don't think it's going to be that many, but if you're one of them, then give it a try. Now, there is the MGC Elite 2x2, which is still available for £15. This is 51mm, so the same size as the GAN 251M series, and it has center to edge magnets as well as the regular corner to edge magnets, which just gives it a slightly different feel to it, but I think most people will find it a bit too heavy and the turning a bit slower than most 2x2s these days. The WeiPo WRS is another option from MoYu a few years ago. It's still a viable 2x2, but I'm not sure how many people will like it now. We also have the Vin 2x2, which unfortunately was a bit disappointing, especially considering how good the Vin 4x4 was. But of course, the Vin designer was a former YJ designer, so it's kind of a shame that he left, and this isn't quite as good as could be expected, but at £17 it has corner-to-core magnets. There is, of course, a cheaper version for £11 which doesn't have the corner-to-core magnets, but ultimately I'm not sure it can compete with the new MGC Beta. So we've got the MGC Beta, which is, well, the standard version is £13, and then the core corner magnetic version is £14. So essentially there's not really any reason you would ever get the standard version, which is a bit weird. Like, why is that only £1 cheaper? That seems a bit silly. But the corner core magnet version is a very nice 2x2. It kind of feels like a slightly heavier version of the WeiPo V5. It is, of course, 51mm, so slightly bigger, and it just has a nice smooth feel to it. Slightly blockier than the WeiPo V5, slightly heavier, but it has a nice feel to it that I think would probably put it at the top for a mid-range 2x2 right now. But it's very new, so it'll be interesting to see what top 2x2 solvers think of it. Now, at the very, very budget end of 2x2, we have the Qidi S2 and the Meilong 2x2. And these are both decent 2x2s, but obviously they're not even magnetic, so they're not going to be especially good. But if you genuinely can only afford to spend £4 on a 2x2, or you're buying a lot of them for a club or something, then I would recommend the Meilong 2x2. I think it's slightly better than the Qidi S2, but the Qidi S2 is still a completely viable option. However, recently Qi also released the Qi Warrior M, which is only £6, so it makes it the cheapest magnetic 2x2 on the market, and it is obviously a lot better than the non-magnetic versions. However, it simply doesn't compete with the £9 and £10 options available here. So if you are willing to spend slightly more and go increase your budget up to £10, then there are some significantly better options available. Now, the MGC 2x2 V1 is still a viable 2x2 at £10. However, I've seen way too many people getting corners breaking on this one, so I think the corners are a bit weaker. But obviously, like, if the corner does break, it's probably your fault because you're stupid enough to twist the fixed corner. And look, like, I know my videos about stuff like that don't get much interest, don't get many views, but come on, do not twist the fixed corner of a cube. Understand how 2x2 mechanisms work. Just be a sensible cuber, please. But anyway, let's have a look at the slightly better, in my opinion, and also slightly cheaper £9 2x2s. So we've got the RS2M Evolution, which is from MoYu, and is essentially a budget version of the WeiPo WRS. And it's available for only £9 and performs very nicely. However, personally, although I think a lot of top 2x2 solvers would disagree with this opinion, I think the Qi M Pro 2x2 ball core is slightly better. So this is also £9 and has a ball core, so it has core corner magnets just like the GAN 251M Pro here, but with a cheaper design on this 2x2. There is, of course, also the non-ball core version, which is only £7. I don't have one right here right now, but they are available on my site. But overall, if you're looking for a sub £10 2x2, this would be my go-to option. So there are loads of 2x2s available on the market, but hopefully this will tell you which ones are best. As I said, for a very high-end 2x2, I would recommend the GAN 251M Pro. If you like UV coating, then consider the 251 Leap UV, or if you like very strong magnets, consider the regular GAN 251M Leap. If you want to save £7, this is probably the best option, the GAN 251M Air. For a mid-range option at £14, I would recommend the MGC Beta 2x2. And for a sub £10 option, I would recommend the Qi M Pro 2x2. And of course, if you want something really cheap, the Meilong 2x2 is only £4. Now, of course, it's worth giving an honourable mention to the Valk 2, which I still have one available if anyone wants it. This was the best 2x2 on the market for many years. It is out of production now and very rare, so if you're looking for a collector's 2x2 that is still good, then contact me and I might be able to sell you a Valk 2. But obviously it will be quite expensive because it's a very rare cube.